My man, Brad, welcome back to the show. It's only been about 5 years.
Hey, Greg. Yeah, God, I think I was one of your first few people
We're
on the
one of the
podcast
first few, buddy. So
back
that's
in the
because you're a
day.
nice, easy guy to talk to. So I figured let me start my podcast career out with a nice, polite gentleman from Georgia. So, Brad,
Sure.
a lot has happened since we last spoke. You got a great business down in Atlanta. You're a corporate refugee, so you got out of your
Yes.
job. Now you're a big boy down in the Georgia market. So let's just start with this. Give everyone a high level overview of what does your business look like today in 2023.
So today, I actually kind of scaled back a little bit last year. And I realized that I was like, hey, the 80-20 principle, right? 80% of our deals were coming through probate. And we're really good at probate. My team is really good at it. Like, we have the personalities and the understanding of the process and the patience.
Yeah.
So like our best deals, like all of our revenues coming from probate, and why are we doing all these other things? I found myself in a trap like over the year, being in these big masterminds with these heavy hitters. And it's like, well, I need to do that, and I need to do
Yeah.
that,
Oh, I hate that, dude.
I need
Drives
to
me
do
nuts.
that, and I need this big giant team, and I need this and this. And then I started like trying to automate it and get myself out of it. And I was like, wait a second, I kind of like doing this a little bit. Like I like
Sound like me.
being in the mix,
Yeah.
you know? So then, so last year, I kind of scaled back a little bit. I let some employees go and kept my core employees. My acquisitions guy and my leads managers have been with me for I think 4 years now. Um,
Amazing.
and I just said, let's simplify this and just, do the probate stuff. And then I devised this brilliant plan of how I'm going to do probate, and I'll get into that later. But my business today is a lot less deal volume. And we've done probably half the amount of deals that we were doing before. But honestly, I haven't looked at my books yet, but I think I'm making more money than I was before, from a net perspective, right?
You just
So
said the secret, my man. This is
yeah.
this is this is the thing because you and I are in a lot of the same groups and we rub elbows with the same people. I have done some serious investigating and I ask a lot of questions. And if you can have a small team that makes a lot of money, like you and me, and you can do big deals and have a nice bottom line, you're going to net more money than these people with these huge machines. And in the big benefit that I've discovered, and listen, I'm no genius, but when the market gets a little frothy like it did last year and now it's coming back,
Yep.
when you have a big business, like it's like a cruise ship, it's very hard to turn the cruise
Yep.
ship around. But when you have a nice, efficient speedboat, it's still going to go fast and make you money. But if you got to turn around, you can turn that thing around in the blink of an eye versus this whole business. You got to fire people and offload people, and you got all this overhead you have to like wind down. So when people get into this business, I've found they want to have freedom and they want to have more money, right? That's usually the goal, and
Right.
they get themselves back into a corporate scenario that they happen to be running. And now they're stuck. They can't go on vacation. They can't leave their team. And it turns into this mess. So I love how you shared that because you can make more money with less people and have a great business. And I used to just be like, you know what? If Joe Blow's doing more deals than me, good for him. I'm fine with that. It doesn't bother me. Like I don't need to compare myself to other people because there's always going to be somebody that's doing more business than me, no matter what. And I'm okay with that. And man, I love how you shared that because a lot of people need to hear this because they might not want to scale because it's a whole other beast.
And it's not for everybody. Like
Not for everybody.
I value my free time,
Me too.
right? So like I realize, and so last year while I was building my house, this is sort of another real estate project I was doing. I GC the whole building. I was here on site every single day. I found that I can run my business from this right here every day because I'm literally just on the phone all day. That's all I
Yeah, or
do,
email.
right?
That's all I do.
Phone and emails. So
Yeah.
I'm running my business from this phone while I'm building a house. I was doing some of the work, because I like, me, I like doing some of that stuff. And I'm like, well, wait a second. I kind of like how this is working. Obviously, I took my eye off the ball, and the business still ran and we still made money and I still kept things afloat. But now that I got out of the build and I'm done, now I'm really focusing back in it, and now we're making money. It's cool. So now I know that I can sustain the thing, and then the market sort of dropped off, right? So what we started doing then is actually I started flipping some more stuff. I started taking stuff down, and I did a little interesting strategy with the flips where to sort of keep the business going, because I've got these relationships with my private lenders. I was like, well, I'll just borrow a little bit more on the rehab than what I know the rehab's really going to cost. That's a little bit of padded. It's like what Mitch Steven always talks about, that doing seller finance deals.
Yeah.
Like, hey, keep like 5 or 10 grand for yourself from the loan, and then that's like revenue, and then the rest, and then I have cash to cover if I go over. But it actually worked out pretty well. So I've got these flips that are we're selling them, and they're, so I've also structured my business to like not be like 100% wholesale. It's a mixture of wholesale and flips. So like the wholesale's like the consistent sort of revenue, and the flips are like big licks that are coming in, here and there, right? And not just relying on one thing or the other. So,
dude, I do like literally the same thing. I feel like we're the same person, except I'm north and you're south, or west and you're east, whatever you want, however you want to structure it. But people also don't do that. They just get into this wholesale machine, and it's fine. But I tell people, I said this on a podcast the other day. I said, listen, the biggest mistake that I made when I started was that there were opportunities. If I were to fix and flip those houses, or even close on them and put them on the market, I would have made quadruple what I would have made wholesaling it. And I made 30 grand wholesaling it. Like I would have made 120 just buying the damn house. That's triple or quadruple the revenue on the same lead. That changes your life. That changes your life, not the 30 grand deal. It's the 120 grand deal, because it takes you the same almost time and effort. Maybe you got to wait 3 more months, but like, that's like found money. You know what I mean? It's crazy.
Sure. Yeah. So we wholesale, we flip, and I keep rentals, and I do owner financing stuff. I do like all the things. I wear all the hats, right?
Yeah.
Because every lead that comes in, right, I'm looking at it like through a lens of like, how does this best fit? What's the highest and best use for this deal? And sometimes I need to wholesale some deals because I'm looking at cash flow projections for the business. I'm like, okay, well, we need to wholesale these two just because we need some cash like here in the next like 2 weeks or 3 weeks or whatever. And then, let me keep that. Like I've got a flip that we just started this week. I bought it back right after Christmas. We had a temporary occupancy. The guy overstayed his temporary occupancy. I actually got to keep the escrow hold back because he overstayed by like 3 weeks. And then, so now I'm like, well, cool. I bought this for an even better number. And then I finally started the flip here. Obviously, what's been going on with my son, and I just didn't have the mental capacity for a couple months to just deal with this flip. So just sat, right? Good for my private lender. I'm paying them interest on this sitting. But I just got started on it last week. We're, banging it out. It's a cosmetic rehab, and I was running the numbers, and good thing I waited a little bit, because the market's kind of like
coming back a little bit.
And there was a comp I had projected the ARV on this house at like 290 conservatively, like with the market adjustment, Well, another one in the neighborhood just sold for 310, literally same exact house. Mine's on an unfinished basement. That one's on a slab. Same neighborhood, just sold for 310. So I'm like, well, cool. There's another 20 grand in revenue there. So I'm like running numbers like, well, shoot, I'm going to still make like 60 grand on this flip. Like, good thing I kept it,
Yeah, right. And that's the thing. And that's why I love how you don't have this massive machine, because when you have a massive machine, you have to just wholesale to keep the overhead afloat. But when you can have a smaller business, and when I say smaller, it doesn't necessarily mean revenue smaller, volume smaller, and overhead smaller.
Yeah.
You can get creative with your deals because you don't need to worry about paying your bills next month. You have the reserves, you have this, you have that.
Right.
And it allows people to be more real estate engineers versus just like people in a factory. There's nothing wrong with that. But I'm like you. I like being a deal maker. I like looking at deals. Hey, maybe we go sub 2. Maybe we take it retail. Maybe we wholesale it. Maybe I double close it. And like, you're able to be more creative in the business when you don't have all this overhead liability and like 17 salespeople you got to pay. Like, I've been to the seminars where they talk about hiring a sales floor. And every time I get done with those, I literally stick my finger in my mouth and I start dry heaving, because I'm like, this is not what I want to do.
Yeah. And you're a sales guy. Like, you're way more of a sales guy than me, right?
Yeah, exactly. And I'm the quote unquote sales guy. And like, my sales guy makes a lot of money, and doesn't have anyone he competes with. It's just him, and he makes a bunch of money. And now he's grown so much where him and I are going to go 50-50 on this Delaware house, because he lives down there and he's got a bunch of money in the bank. I'm like, dude, let's just go in this thing together. Fuck it. Let's just do it. And like, we're able to do that because we don't have this massive machine and corporate structure and anything
Right.
like that. And I just found like for me and the lifestyle, and with you and the lifestyle, I feel like it just works better for me. It
Yeah.
fits my personality better.
Right.
And you know, when you bring team members on, like you have a small, close team versus like this corporate structure and what's your talk time and all this bullshit that I don't really like.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You
man.
still have to manage your people, right? I
Yeah,
still
but it's
manage like,
different.
yeah.
Yeah.
Like I let my leads manager know like recently, like, hey, you've been sucking up on follow-up lately. I'm looking at the
Yeah.
numbers and
Yeah.
we got to improve this. You need to be doing X amount of follow-up calls per day. And I got on her case and I'm looking at the numbers now and she's doing it right. And the results improved. And I'm like, see, it's just about touching people. It's
Yes.
just about the touch. It's not about, you're not going to lock up a deal every time you do follow-up. It's the constant contact,
It's the
right?
lead measure. Yeah. It's the
Right.
lead measure, not the lag
Correct.
measure. Here's
Yeah.
another thing that I realized. You're gonna like this. I'm reading a book. Listened to the book and now I'm reading it. It's called Buy Back Your Time by Dan Martell. Really good
Okay.
book. Popular now. And I did a time audit because that was one of the like the action items in the book. And I looked at all the time I was spending throughout the day, and it was mostly like emails and phone calls. And I'm like, okay, I still need to do that, but I need to spend more time leading my team and improving our systems. Right.
Yes.
So because I don't have a huge team, I can still do the phone calls and emails that are required. But now that time audit got me to realize I need to train my team more. And that's going to be a good use of my time and also improving our systems. And it's manageable with a few employees. It's harder to manage when you have 10 employees because then you have to have someone directing them and this, that, and the other. So
Right.
yeah, the main takeaway for the listeners is like, you don't need to see what someone else is doing and exactly copy them if you don't want to. Like you can do 5 deals a month or 3 deals a month and make a bunch of money and do whatever you want and have freedom and have money in the bank and have rental properties. Like there's not one size fits all in this business.
And you're going to figure out too, like the further you're into this business, you're going to figure out what you like and what you don't like.
Yes.
Right. And you're going to figure out your mental capacity too. Like I can only, because I manage my flips and I just manage the subs. I'm just basically dealing with the subs, right?
Yeah.
Sherwin-Williams just called me a minute ago. Like, hey, is your painter? Can he pick up the paint? And I was like, yeah, sure. Go ahead. Charge it to the account. I can only take on like probably, I've got 4 flips going on at the moment. One of them's under contract to sell. We're just doing, agreement to address concerns right now. And I got another one that's getting clean this weekend, going on the market next week, photographs Monday. So it's pretty much done. And I got 2 more sort of in process. So it's like 4 is like my max at a time. Like that's too much, almost too much. Probably 3 is like my sweet spot. So now that I'm selling these 2, I'm looking in my, sort of my leads that are coming down the pipe and what we have in the pipeline. I'm like, okay, I have the mental capacity to take on like 2 more flips because I know that these 2 are like selling soon. So like, let's take on 2 more rehabs and then wholesale. The wholesales are easy because like it doesn't require a ton of
Glorified wholesale
effort, right? Plus, I'm an agent, so I list my wholesales myself, right?
Okay.
So that's just a benefit of being an agent. So yeah, I mean, I figured out what I like and what I don't like, and I just do what I like and I don't do what I don't like. And like,
Hey, that sounds like a recipe for success to me.
right. And I'm still working every day, but I still have time to spend with my family. And as you know, like what's going on with my son, like I need a lot of time with him to take him to all the things that we have to do. And I'm not going to get into this in video, but like this gives me the time because my wife is like down the hall from me and she works for a corporation and she's a project manager and she's an agile coach is what she does for a living. Like she's been doing a training all week, all day, every day, locked in her office, like all day. She makes fantastic money, but like I have the flexibility, like, oh, I can take my son to a doctor's appointment today or whatever. Like I can go do this or go do that or run an errand or whatever. It gives me the flexibility and the freedom to just
Exactly. And still manage your business from your phone.
correct. Yeah. Cause I put my AirPods in and I'm like wherever and I'm talking on the phone and now that it's warmed up outside, I don't even really hang out in my office now that it's warm. I just I pace around the house and I'm just on the phone all day.
A crazy man pacing around his house.
Yeah, I'm sure the neighbors
Georgia
like,
man.
this guy. So
well, let's get into the probate part because that's
Yeah.
something you've really gotten good at and you're starting to systematize now. So we talked about how valuable probate leads are. You saw that, 80% of your revenue is coming from 20% of your lead channels, probate.
Yep.
So like, what have you done to like systematize this? Because you've taken a way different approach than most people. And you've really built a lot of valuable content around this to make your system evergreen.
Yeah, yeah. So I've always done probate direct mail marketing, right?
Yeah.
And then I was doing pay-per-click for years, and I'd get probate deals from pay-per-click.
Yeah. This is
right.
nothing. Yeah.
And probate deals are always just heavy hitter, like big deals. They're a longer life cycle, right? They're like 3 to 6 months to close versus like maybe 30 days for another lead form. And they require more nurturing. They require special personality to deal with these people. These people are going through a lot of issues. You can't just be like the cut and dry, like,
what's your offer?
Yeah. Like that's not, no, you got to like be emotional and empathetic with these people. And like, that's why my leads manager has been with me for 4 years. She's so good at it. Like she could be a therapist. I mean, she's fantastic with these people. They love her. And she like, we'll spend an hour on the phone and just talking through why their sister's angry at them or whatever, you know, like that sort of thing. Right. So I do the probate deals. I've been doing direct mail probate, still do those. And I just consistently mail those. My probate lists, I just ordered, 24,000 postcards yesterday. Right. Like my list is huge because I've built it over years, and I don't take anything off my list unless they ask me to, or they've sold the property. Right.
Yeah.
So my list just grows and grows and grows every month. Also, what I'm doing now is I'm really good at the online stuff. I figured out all the marketing. I was doing YouTube videos and all that stuff before on all the other topics around selling a house. And I was like, well, let me just focus on probate and do that. So I built a website. It's called probateresource.com. And basically it's just, if you follow Frank Kern, intent-based marketing,
Love him.
Frank Kern stuff is awesome. It's all what Frank Kern teaches, and it's all just driving this evergreen content to this website, and it's all things related to probate, not just the house piece, but like everything related to probate. And I have guest speakers, and I have I have attorneys, and I have counselors, and I have like estate sale companies. They're all contributing to this content with me, and they're my partners in this. And we're actually taking this national. You can also check out probatehouseguy.com. So that's sort of another one of my brands that we're going to take this national. That's my like investor and agent focused brand is probatehouseguy.com. Like I'm launching a podcast here this week, and I'm going to be doing a lot of probate stuff on podcasts. So check that out. It's coming down the pipe. That's just the plan going forward, is just to basically just laser focus, probate only, intent-based marketing, like content marketing, and just go national with it.
No, that's a great idea too, because you've used the data to give you evidence that this is a valid thing. Because, with probate leads, pre-probate leads, whatever you want to call them, because we do both, like that is, the deal size is much bigger, but like you said, you have to be very nurturing, and it's the content that you're putting out is very smart, because when somebody has a property that they inherit via probate, the first thing they're usually thinking of is, what the F do I do with this thing? Not how do I liquidate this thing in 2 minutes? Like, so if they go to like probatehouseguy.com or probateresource.com?
Probateresource.com.
Yeah. That's a great domain, by the way.
Yeah.
They can get
Cost me $4,000 to buy that domain.
Oh, I don't play. That's a very good domain, dude. That's like a, quarter of a wholesale fee. They can see that you obviously know what you're doing, and you're providing content in advance of asking for anything, aka a cash offer.
Right.
So when they actually decide to get in touch with your team, they're like, oh man, I saw your videos. I saw this. I thought that was helpful. Oh, that attorney knows what they're doing. Well, guess what? I got a property I want to get rid of. And guess who has a competitive advantage over the other Giuseppe in Atlanta? You.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying?
Exactly. Right.
Yeah. That's super smart, man. And especially it's like the perfect niche to do this around, because like, if it was like absentee owner resource, it's like, well, yeah, I got a tenant inside and I want to sell, like pretty straightforward. But probate is a lot more sticky,
Yeah.
Oh,
speaking of absentee, I bought a domain like a couple years ago during the peak of COVID with the eviction moratorium.
God.
It was landlordstimulus.com. I bought that because everyone's getting stimulus checks, and landlord's like, hey, what about me? Like, so I did some marketing back then to absentees, like, hey, tired of the tenant,
tired of the tenant. Well, in Georgia, you can kick someone out in 2 minutes. New York is like fucking Armageddon up here.
Well, I mean, it was still like the courts were just closed for months, like Clayton County. So sweet. All right, I'm getting a check. I just got an email. I'm getting my check for my deal yesterday. The big $75,000 deal. Wire's gonna go out today. Cool, I'll take it. That was a probate deal from a mailer that I had to nurture. I think it was a September mailer, and we finally locked it under contract in like December.
90-day sales cycle.
Yeah. And so that's another thing with probates is they're a long life cycle. So you've got to understand the value of a pipeline and the nurturing sequence in a pipeline to be successful at these, because you're not going to have a ton of deals and you're not going to make a ton of money right off the bat on probate. Like, you have to fill your pipeline up because these things take forever to close. Like, I've got one that's like, it's been stuck in probate for a year now, and it's like, you just have to fill this pipeline up so that you're not waiting for the next one. Really, you're like, there's another one coming. Your pipeline's full. And oh, cool. We just got, I get a phone call. Oh, we just got probate letters on this one. We've been trying for like 6 months. Cool. Now we can close it. Yay.
Yeah.
So it's that understanding that and filling that pipeline up to keep it rolling. And over time, you'll do more and more business and you'll get better and better. And that's just, what I'm doing is not overnight success. Like, I've been doing this since I started probate marketing in 2018. So like, I've been doing this for 5 years now, right?
Half decade. That's crazy.
Yeah. So
and that's the thing with probate, man. Like, so, and every like state is different because, like, for example, in Texas, you can do probate, obviously, but if there's just like a simple airship thing, you can do airship affidavits. You can do that in New York. You can do that in Tennessee. So like, really understanding how the system works is like key. Like, for example, in California, oh man, you want to hear an interesting probate story? You'll like this one. God, it pains me to even talk about this. So I ran into a vacant house in El Cajon, California, which is like 30 minutes from where I live.
Yeah.
And the lady inherited the property. She lived in Montana. The house was fucking shot.
Yeah.
And it took me like 6 months to get her to sell this house to me. And I just dealt with her directly because it was local.
Right.
And she's like, okay, I'll sell it to you. I'm selling it at a discount, but it has to go through probate. And I didn't understand how probate worked in San Diego until this deal happened. Yeah. So we signed a contract, and the contract basically wasn't even valid because she wasn't the executor of the estate yet.
Sure. We do it all the time.
Yeah. So we go into escrow, and she wanted like 25 grand down, and I agreed to do it, but I didn't put the money down because she wasn't the owner yet. So I didn't like legally have to.
Sure.
So we go in contract, and it says the 25K EMD. I didn't put the money down, and my escrow officer knows me pretty well from like other deals.
Mine's the same way.
Yeah.
Half the time I send EMD, other times I don't.
Yeah. I'm like, I'll get to it. So we're going through the motions here, and this is like, wow, the market's starting to take a shit. So we locked it up in February. Probate takes forever in California, just like everything in California is just a fucking pain in the ass. Get in contract, sitting there, waiting, things taking forever. I actually referred her a probate attorney. The whole thing's going through. And now June comes along, and the market like takes this nasty dive in San Diego, like just disaster out there, because it was so expensive. Drops like 15%. And I agreed to let her rent the house back for me for 30 days because she needed to move her shit out. And because she like didn't live there, and then she like went back to the property and was like living there with no power. Fucking weird. Well, no, she had power. She didn't have like, it was just sketchy. Like, she had like a mini fridge. Anyway, so I'm starting to think like, all right, this market's dropping down, and I don't know about this deal. Like, the numbers started to not look great because of the market. Yeah. So find out that the brother now comes out of the woodwork. Now, the brother, she told me, was not a problem. And I'm like, okay, well, if he's not a problem, then no issue. Brother finds out she's selling the house for a cheap price. He goes bananas. He's like, well, if you're going to sell for this price, he's got to put $35,000 down. And now I'm like, oh shit. So now she becomes a legal executor because the probate court goes through. Yeah. I got to send, 35 grand. No, was it 35 grand? Yeah, it was like 30. No, sorry. It was 15 originally, and then he wanted 10 grand more. So it was 25. That's what happened. This was a while ago. So I sent the 25 grand into escrow, like no issue. And now I'm like, oh my God, now I have to wholesale this thing because like I want to just get out of this thing. So she's being a pain in the ass. The brother's a pain in the ass. They actually sued each other. And now I'm stuck in the middle of this thing with 25 grand non-refundable. Market keeps going down. And now I'm like, oh my God, now I need to just wholesale this thing for like whatever I can get. Yeah. I fucking couldn't find a buyer because nobody wanted it because the terms of the contract sucked. Yeah. And now I'm like, I got to cancel this contract. And I never cancel contracts, like ever. And I'm like, oh my God, I got to cancel this contract. So I canceled the contract, and I told her, I'm like, listen, I'm going to need to get my money back. And she's like, well, I don't want to give you your money back. I'm like, well, legally I can get my money back because you didn't sign a contract with me and it wasn't valid. And number two, you're in breach of the contract because we were supposed to close this thing in like freaking May, and now it's like July, and this, or no, it's September.
Yeah.
I'm like this, like I'll get a lawyer. Like I know what I'm doing. And she was like bitching at me, and so I had to get a lawyer, and they sent her a nasty letter. So basically, the bottom line is it cost me $1,000 to get my $25,000 back.
Sure.
Canceled the contract. She put it on the market, sold it for cheap on the MLS. Whole thing was a nightmare. So I spent $1,000 to get my 25 grand back, net 24. And it was a total disaster. So the point is this: California probate is a lot different than New York probate, and I've learned that the hard way.
It's different. It's different. It's the same, but it's different. Like there's subtleties in every market, right? Yeah. I've lost some money on some probate. Two deals last year lost money. We got the people a probate attorney. We took them to the probate court. Like my acquisitions guy drove them to their court hearings, all the stuff, drove them all around, blah, blah, blah. Both of them sold the properties out from underneath us behind our back to another wholesaler.
Can you file this pendants in that case? In that case, can't you sue the seller?
I can, but they don't have any money. Like one of them, they got like 25 grand or something. And I bet you that money's already gone. Like I can, right? But like, what are you gonna sue a broke person? What are you gonna get? Like, I'm just
no. Sue them. No, you file list pendants and cloud the title, and then they can't sell it.
Yeah. Well, we could have done that. We do a memorandum of contract here in Georgia, and it's like sort of holds some weight, sort of doesn't. I don't do a lot. There's a lot of wholesalers who do them like all the time. I only do them in certain circumstances. A couple circumstances they've paid off for me. I got paid out, right?
Yeah.
But like with these, it was like, oh, they're never gonna like screw us, because in like one of the couples I paid. The house was in such bad shape. Defects came and they were like, we're going to take your kids because your kids shouldn't be living in this thing.
Oh my God.
We were like, so I was like, okay, well, we're closing in like a few weeks. This was right around Christmas. I was like, okay, well, I'll just put you in a hotel and I'll pay for the hotel. Big mistake on my part, right? So because I'm a caring person, right? So I put him in a hotel. We're supposed to close this thing like December 28th or something, like right after Christmas. We get to the day before closing and the attorney's like, hey, she hasn't sent us her probate letters yet. And I'm like, what do you mean she hasn't sent? Like, she told us she had her letters. So big mistake I learned there is tell my team, you need to see the letters. Do they have the letters in their hand? Don't let them tell you that they have the letters. Look and verify that they have the letters of administration or testamentary. And if they have them, we're good. Well, she didn't have the letter. She had just petitioned for probate, but never actually finished it. So here I am. I'm out. I think it was like $3,000 in hotel fees for this family to stay there. God. Me and my leads manager went to the house. Her and I cleaned the house out one day. Got a dumpster, cleaned the house out, cleaned their kitchen, and moved them back in the house. And then they got him a probate attorney, and then they got their letters, and like she got her letters and sold the house. She was working with another investor on the side at the same time, sold the house to them for like $5 grand more than what we were paying.
Oh my God. What did you do? Did you sue him?
She didn't have any money. Like it's gone. I could sue her, I guess, but I'm like, you know what? Whatever. I'm just moving on with life.
Move on.
I'm not going to waste my time and my mental capacity. It was like $3 or $4 grand, right? Whatever. Just move on. Like
it's crazy.
Because sometimes I've learned that like, there's been times where I've like gone into a lawsuit. I had one guy, I threatened him with a lawsuit a couple of years ago and actually got 20 grand out of it. Even threatened the broker that was involved. It was a mess. Turns out my buddy ended up buying the house. I didn't realize that he was the other investor. But craziness. I made some money off that, but like I had to go through and like I was about to pay an attorney the retainer and all this stuff. Yeah. And then he ended up finally, we basically verbally said, hey, we're filing Superior Court tomorrow if you don't pay me this money, because you know what you did and I'll win in court. Like, you know, and he's like, okay, fine, we'll send the money and whatever. But it was wild. But I usually don't do that just because I know it's not worth my time to do it.
Yeah,
you know?
it is a slippery slope, especially like how much is like your mental energy. Like, do I want to get involved in a lawsuit and pay an attorney and deal with all that bullshit? It's like,
right.
Yeah, we try to not do it. I make an exception to that. Like if the seller is truly distressed and it's like a grandma and she just doesn't want to sell, dude, I'm never going to do that to her. But if
No,
it's
no, I don't need that. I let him out of the contract.
yeah, I
Like,
let him out. I'm
it's
like,
not
fuck
right.
it.
It's not the right thing. I don't
Yeah,
want to be on the news and be like that investor that like took advantage of the little old lady. I'm thinking
yeah,
about
yeah,
the
yeah,
headlines in my
exactly.
head, right?
Yeah.
And my acquisitions guy's like, no, sewer, da da da. I was like, no, like
No.
just it's not
Sewer.
worth it, man. There's more deals. Just move on to
Yeah.
the next one, right?
But when they get greedy, I'm a savage. When they're like, oh, well, Bob offered me, well, guess what? I'll file his pendants in 2 minutes and you'll be toasted. And they're like, oh, okay. I guess
And the one I was talking about with my buddy that actually was ended up being the buyer, the guy was just a total snake. I was like, you're a dirtbag. He's
wait, your buddy was the one who snaked you.
no. The
Oh,
seller.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
So the seller, we were buying this house. He needed to buy, this was his mom's house he inherited. He needed to find a new house. So he hired an agent to go find him a new house locally. Well, the agent got in his ear and was like, well, I can get you more money for that house.
Oh.
He sent the deal to a friend of mine via text message. It was like, hey, I have this deal. I was under contract on this deal at the time.
Yeah.
I didn't know any of this. So then my buddy puts it under contract and the seller's like, well, you know, we were supposed to close and he wouldn't send them the last document they needed or something. We're like, hey, we're supposed to close. Like, we're ready to go. Like the money's like waiting. I'm ready to wire the money. Da, da, da. He's like, oh, I got a better offer from someone else. I was like, no, what's going on here? He's like, well, my agent told me I can get more money. So I called the agent's broker and the broker was like, no, she would never do something like that. Da, 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 da. Let's figure this out. Da, da, da. So I'm dealing with this broker. Like, and then I finally was like, look, I'm filing a lawsuit against you, your brokerage, and him. I'm naming everybody in it because that's not ethical what you did, right? You're not supposed to do that. I was under contract. I had a contract. I'm ready to close. The money's ready to be wired. You know, da 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 da. It's not like I'm just some idiot wholesaler who really couldn't even close on the transaction.
You actually were ready to buy the house. Yeah.
I close on everything. Even if I don't find a buyer, I close on it because I do what I say I'm going to do, right?
Yeah.
Because that's the right thing to do. Imagine that, right? So then he ends up sending me the money. They wired me the money. And then I later found out, once I found out a friend of mine was the one who actually bought it because he posted it on Facebook like a week later. Oh, look at this house we just bought. And I was like, you were the other guy? No kidding. Because he didn't know I was the other investor. And he sends me the text messages from the agent. Like she did a FaceTime video with him and showed him the house on FaceTime. I was like, that little, I probably still, I agreed, like when I got paid off, I agreed not to like sue the broker. And I probably shouldn't have done that, but I should have still probably filed a complaint to the Georgia Real Estate Commission against them. But,
what a mess.
Yeah, it's crazy.
What a mess, dude. Real estate is an interesting business. That's all I got to say. But Brad, you definitely know what you're doing. And I'm excited to see what you take, how you grow this probate arm of your business and help a lot of people nationwide. So if people want to check you out as we wrap the show up here, first thing is, how do they get in touch with you? And the second thing is, how do they get in touch with the probate assets you're creating? So go to probatehouseguy.com. I'm going to basically build this out across the country and build strategic partners in each market. So I want like an investor who really knows what they're doing, kind of experience, who's a deal engineer in each market. Because this is lower deal volume, but like bigger spread deals. So go to probatehouseguy.com. There's a form on there, contact form. You can reach out to me through probatehouseguy.com. It's really the best way to do it because those forms will go right to me and I'll get back to you. So beautiful. And then how do they get in touch with you directly? On Instagram? Yeah, I'm on Instagram, Brad K. Woodall. I'm on Facebook, Brad Woodall. Like, can find me on those channels. So beautiful. We'll put those in the notes, my man. I appreciate you being a second guest or a second. Yeah. Thanks for having me again, Greg. Appreciate it.